Hello and welcome back. It's Monday evening, which means one thing. Sky Bet League 2 live. Yes, we've done League 1 yesterday evening. Time to have a look at the fourth tier. A goal in every single game. However, tonight, we're not alone. We are joined by a couple of special co-hosts. We are joined not just by Jack, but someone will take you back to the start of the season with him. We've got a trio of us tonight. We've got Josh from Josh Talks EFL and Jack from JK Analysis. Lads, how are we doing? Josh, great result for your weekend.
Oh, mate, amazing result. Amazing result. I didn't see it coming, but we take those all day long.
Absolutely, I bet you do. Did you make the trip?
I didn't make the trip, no. My mates weren't going apart from that soul loser Matt MS, so we let him go by himself.
He texted me saying he feels like he might get off the train somewhere and he might not even make it to the game. And luckily he did. He saw a first Saturday away win. Sid, when was the last time you thought you won away on a Saturday?
Last time we went away on a Saturday, no, it wasn't Fleetwood because that was on a Saturday. Probably
Friday.
Cambridge, where we won 1-0.
Yeah, you beat Burton and Fleetwood, but Matt Taylor scored the winner in that one. Jack, how were you, mate? How was Port Vale away?
Yeah, I didn't quite make it, and to be honest, I'm glad that I didn't because of how flat it looked on the TV, and yeah, it seemed like you didn't really enjoy it as much, did you?
No, I came away from the ground thinking it is what it is. It's a disappointing game, but look, you've lost to Port Vale away, who, let's be honest about it, if they don't win, not in the top three, I think a lot of people will be very surprised. Now, we are back with another League 2 live stream. If you could like the stream as well, we have got some very special guests coming in this evening. We've got a Tranmere fan and a Bradford City fan as well, who I think will be quite happy off the back of the weekend. So we've got to have some winning representation in League 2 this weekend. It can't just be a losing weekend. We'll start off, lads, with Grimsby against Walsall. Another great result. Josh, Connor Barrett, one that has come in to Walsall this season. He's now got 5 assists for the season, most in League 2. And Walsall, since the 6-2 defeat at home to Fleetwood, have scored 6 goals, conceded 3. A great response. Nathan Lowe, DJ getting on the score sheet as well. Walsall have won 7 of the first 11 and scored 23 goals in that time. Only last year, they only won 18 last year. So it's a really good start for the Saddlers.
Absolutely, and you speak about Connor Barrett. He's somebody who I identified obviously with his 5 assists already this season, which is a phenomenal return for a lad who was playing National League North last season. Everything Walsall do, which is good, comes through him. Out wide, they are sensational. They get balls into the box. Jamil Matt, he's a big lad who'll get on the end of them, and from set pieces as well, they look really, really dangerous. When they put a ball into the box, you kind of expect them to score, and that's been really effective for them at the moment.
And Jack, you were really impressed with Connor Barrett and Walsall, and the response to that bad defeat, because he started the season really well. Yes, they'll be disappointed that they conceded the goal in bad fashion. The goalkeeper tries to play out. He's done that a few times where it's worked for him, but not on this occasion. How impressed have you been with Walsall? They aren't a possession-based side. They've got the third lowest actually in the division on 42.5%, but they've got the highest expected goals on 23.6. It's quite a lot higher than Notts County on 19.2. How impressed have you been with when they've got the ball, how effective they are with it, getting out to the wide areas and getting crossed into the box for players like Jamil Matt, Albert Adoma, and co?
Yeah, definitely, and a massive worry that a lot of people came into the season about Walsall before sort of the first game came around was where would the goals come from, and they've certainly found a bagsman, Nathan Lowe, who doesn't just offer the goals, he can press from the front. He's a real energetic figure who can win the ball back and just be really positive with the ball. And it's not just Nathan Lowe who brings obviously that front force. It's the midfield with Jamie Jellis. His goal was outstanding. He scored a great goal against Colchester when he brought it down on the first touch. So he's definitely got a really, really good goal from midfield in him. And then on the other side, you got Charlie Lakin, sort of a technician in there. And then you've got Ryan Stirk, who can sit back and just dictate the play and cut the play out and also that allows Taylor Allen to step into midfield and also then wide areas. So it's not just the forward area where they've got creativity either flank through the middle, and it's good to see that Walsall haven't really stepped off, because also Barrow had a good start and Gillingham had a good start like him, and they've sort of petered off by now. But Walsall still going strong, still a threat going forward, but also at the back they're still trying to keep things tight. And obviously they didn't get a clean sheet against Grimsby, but it's an unfortunate mistake which they probably felt it should have been a bit of a foul.
Yeah, I can see that. Josh, coming to you, Grimsby have now won 6 and lost 6 in League Two this year. And one of those can be really frustrating. You look at Huddersfield in League One, they're very similar as well. Not Newport, 5 wins, 7 defeats. If they'd said won 5, drawn 3, lost, I think, 4 games, all of a sudden you're looking at it as a better start, really, but it's still the same points tally. They've actually won the most games, kind of in the top 14. So, well, as many as a lot of clubs in that top 14. Notts County have won 6, Bradford won 6, Gills and Barrow all won 6, all in the playoffs as well. They only won 11 games last year, and 8 of those came at home. So they have been quite strong, but there has been occasions where Doncaster at home, this one, when they are getting beat, it is a bit of a worry, but they can back it up and they can respond. They're a very mixed bag, Grimsby, this year.
Absolutely, but I think that if you offered Grimsby fans for an opening 12 games, 6 wins, I think they would have bit your hand off for it. It doesn't really matter how the wins come. It's just about putting points on the board. And obviously, 12 games, they sit 10th in the league. So for me, I think that's a good return for Grimsby, considering the side which they got. I wouldn't say he's one of the better sides in the league, but I mean, they are getting wins, but also, as you say, they've got 6 losses. So it's just about finding a bit of consistent run of form, because at the moment they're very, very inconsistent and they're conceding a lot of goals, especially at home.
Friday night football saw Newport County, who have lost 7 of their 12 games, lose 3-0 to Chesterfield. I don't know if you lads saw this week that a Newport County fan had a slight dig at Will Grigg. Hey, you're not on fire anymore. 5 minutes later, he comes onto the pitch, and 20 minutes after that, he had scored a brace and got his 5th and 6th goal of the season in League Two. That's 31 in 54 games now for Will Grigg at Chesterfield. Today, Paul Cook signed a new deal with the football club. Jack, how important is that? It's a long-term deal to see him at Chesterfield. He brought them up from the National League. Yes, he scored a lot of goals. They were phenomenal at home last year. A lot of wins. I think they won 17 of the 23 games at home. And they would go so good going forward. They had the firepower too. They did have a decent budget at the helm as well. Defensively, they weren't really bothered about keeping loads of clean sheets. They conceded, I think, 61 goals last season in the National League. But Cook's sides are quite direct, quite get the ball forward as quickly as you can into forward areas. The first goal actually came from that the other day, where Paddy Madden leaped on and Mark Handy got on the back of a keeper's mistake. How important is Paul Cook to Chesterfield? Because wherever he's been, whether it's Wigan or Portsmouth especially, he's built up a phenomenal, kind of warm reception up with the supporters and built something. And that's what he's doing with Chesterfield. This isn't just win League Two. We're back in the Football League after, I think, 7 years of being away. This is, wow, we want to go and push on like a Notts County have, like a Stockport and a Wrexham have.
Yeah, definitely. I think Paul Cook, he can sort of, I think he can do what Mark Robins did with Coventry. Obviously, he had the managerial spell at Coventry, and then he came back, and obviously Coventry went from League Two in a bad place to now in a championship where past few seasons have been in and around the playoffs. And I think Chesterfield could do that, could go into League One and just give it a right go, because Chesterfield have one of the best front lines in the league, and Paul Cook's really utilising that. Like you're saying, the 2 goals that Will Grigg scored are basically identical, really. Ollie Banks makes it in a channel run, then Will Griggs is there just sniffing in around the 6-yard box, and he's there to put it away. And to have the blend between starting Paddy Madden one week and then Will Grigg the other week, it's not a bad front two to be swapping between, and it's probably the best in the division. And like you say, they might not be defensively there yet. Obviously, they weren't last season, and they were. They're not quite this season with Mandeville, who's an attacking player playing at fullback, and that can hurt them at times, but then that is just about outscoring teams, and they kept a clean sheet on Friday night, which is important for them. And yeah, I think Paul Cook, if they do recruit well in the defensive aspects in January, I think Chesterfield could have a good shot at the top 3, never mind about the top 7.
If you haven't already, go and follow Josh on TikTok. He made a fantastic video on Chesterfield, actually. And what we've been discussing in the last few weeks, Josh, is Chesterfield at home not being able to break a door down. And the draws at home are frustrating because when you look at it, Swindon at home, you go 1-0 up. And then Will Wright scores a phenomenal goal. Salford, I think, M.I. scores and he makes it 1-1 just after Chesterfield have scored. Then they draw to Chelt, and I think they're 1-0 up in that game as well. And then they draw 2-2 to Walsall at home and 2-2 to Notts County at home. And in a lot of those games, they are in a 4. I think they're winning 4 of those 5 games. You look at them now, though, they are 4 wins, but they've drawn 6, and they probably think out of those 6 we could have won 4. Well, you add 8 points onto that, the top of the league by 2 points, and they're on 26 points from 12. They've only lost 2. They scored 22 goals, which is, I think only Walsall on 23 have scored more than them. Why do you think the issue has been drawing games at home? Is it a tactical element? Is it maybe switching off at wrong moments? Is it not maybe having the clinicality when because you've got good forward areas? Jack's highlighted Will Grigg and Paddy Madden, but behind that you've got the likes of Mark Handy, you've got Dobro as well in forward areas, and midfielders know the level as well.
Yeah, I think what it is, I think it's definitely tactical in terms of the fact that teams will go to Chesterfield knowing how good they were at home last season, how good their squad is, and they will sit behind the ball for 90 minutes without a problem. People will go there looking to get a point. If they can get all 3, that's a bonus. And teams are doing really good at that. They're sitting behind the ball and then they're taking their opportunities to go and counter on Chesterfield. You look at their possession-based stats, and in most of the games, they've had at least 67% of the ball. Whereas when they're playing away from home, they've got less of the ball, but they're having more of a attacking impetus, you could say. So I feel like it's definitely sort of a tactical thing, and it's something which they need to overcome. But being Chesterfield and having that sort of players, they should be able to overcome that.
Absolutely agree. And if you are new to the channel, please like and subscribe. We are coming up towards Morecambe against MK Dons. This week, Scott Lindsay described MK Dons as the biggest club in the division. Now, I don't think this is a right statement, but I think it's a statement that things haven't been going right at MK Dons. And maybe it's something a little bit, he's coming to the football club and he needs to say something, he needs to make a statement. We saw it with Chris Davis at Birmingham saying that Charlton had a big budget. I think famously Sam Allardyce said not Pep or Arteta can get near him in knowledge of football or, in tactics of football to win a game of football. Sometimes you do it just to take the edge off the players. And one thing I've been really impressed about, Josh, we went to the playoff final together. Liam Kelly, he struggled at the start of the year. I think he didn't get a nice reception away at Salford. Scoring a goal, he did take a deflection, but he's starting to look a lot more himself under Scott Lindsay. Last year, he was phenomenal for Crawley Town at this level as well. When you look at it, he got 6 goals, 12 assists. How important do you think Scott Lindsay is for Liam Kelly? And if Liam Kelly ticks, how important could that be for MK Dons getting up that table?
Yeah, well, Liam Kelly's the beating heart in that side, isn't he? We saw how good he was last season at Crawley, and if we're going to put it bluntly, he's probably not a League 2 player. I'd say he's a top table League 1 player. So the fact that he's even still remaining in League 2 is ridiculous. And just regarding the Lindsay comment, I can see why he's made it, because it's a completely different job to what he did at Crawley. Obviously at Crawley there was a lot less expectation. MK Dons, whether you want to call them a big club in the league or not, they've definitely got the backing there. They got the stadium there, they got the facilities, the players. So there is a real expectation for him to come in and get them out of the league, something which Mike Williamson couldn't do.
Yeah, absolutely. Can understand that. Morecambe had only lost 1 in the previous 6 prior to this, winning 1 during 4 occasions. They beat Barrow last weekend as well, which we did discuss in detail. Morecambe conceded the highest expected goals now in League 2 this year on 19, and just behind them are Grimsby, Bromley and Harrogate. 4 sides there you'd expect to be in the bottom 8 at the start of the season. MK Dons slowly ticking. They've only lost 1 in the last 6. Oh, they've only won 2, though. Do you feel like since Scott Lindsay's come in, Jack, you've started to see a bit of a difference? That big result away at Harrogate was big. The 1-1 draw to Tranmere last week, a late goal conceded, slightly set them back. They drew 1-1 to Doncaster under Dean Lewington just before his arrival. they've taken 3 points from the last 3 points more from the last 6 games than they did in the first 6. Slowly improving, maybe.
Yeah, and I think it's a difference in character even with the manager. I know Williamson's and Lindsay, they're both position-based managers, but I think Lindsay's more straight to the point. I think he came out against Tranmere when they drew 1-1 a couple of weeks back, said, a draw's no use to me. We need all 3 points. And he lost against Port Vale. He got a bit angry after that because obviously that he wanted all 3 points against the top side. And they go to Morecambe and they dominate the play and they create chances. And like Josh says about Liam Kelly, is the heartbeat in that MK Don side, and especially under Lindsay. He can play as a 6, he can play as an 8, he can play as a 10. Anywhere in that midfield, he succeeds. And I think he was probably the standout player in the match from what I saw. Made 2 really good passes, splitting the Morecambe back line. And I think for Lindsay to keep succeeding and to keep, MK on a winning way is probably when you get to January to actually get a 6, because with Kelly and Lehman I Evans in the midfield, you've got no one to really cut out the play. And when the opposition is going forward, you've got no one who's got the aggressive nature. And when Lindsay was at Crawley, he had that in Jay Williams. He could run 20 yards and just smash someone out in a transition and win the ball back for them. And I think that's the weak point that MK have. But, for Lindsay's appointment, they can get the best out of Maguire, Kelly, and then they've also signed Scott Hogan, who I think will bag a few at this level. With the service behind him in Gilby and Kelly and also Joe White. So definitely improving for MK. And I think with the character like Scott Lindsay is, he won't take anything less than 3 points.
Brilliant. Great question there from Scott. I think when you bring 18 new players into the football club, it will take time and it will take time to gel. And Derek Adams is a manager that thrives on defensive, being defensively stable. And yes, they conceded, quite a lot of goals and expected goals is quite high, but they're getting there organised, and they were only losing by odd goals. And Chillingham at home, I don't think they deserve to lose that game. I think Walsall away is a good goal from Taylor Allen from outside the box. Doncaster is a goalkeeper mistake. Stuart Moore, I think, has now made 3 big mistakes that have cost Morecambe this season. I know he'll make plenty of saves that'll keep them in game. I think that is a worry. Joe Tomlinson has scored the quickest penalty in the EFL since April 2023. Can you guess the quickest penalty prior to that? Or are you stumped?
Don't know.
My knowledge doesn't go that far, mate.
It was Derby County, James Collins against Forest Green Rovers. Before that, it was Louis Appare's goal in April 2022. We will be moving on to Tranmere Rovers next, and we have got a very special guest to come in and join us over that. We're going to bring in the next kind of 30 seconds or so. Big news about ownership this week. However, fresh off the back of a 2-1 win, we're going to get him in now. It's Jack. How are we doing, mate?
I'm good. How are you all?
Very well. Talk to me. A great result at the weekend. You started very well, then maybe edged off a little bit. You were built on a good, defensive, being good defensively, maybe not offering a lot in attack. How would you describe your season so far? Because there's been good elements, the win away at Carlisle, the win away at Bromley, beating Walsall, but the lowest goal scorers in the division on 7.
Yeah. I had tweeted saying that we'd possibly win the league at the start of the season. Not gone well. But I think there's lots of different things. I think we just need, if you look at the strikers we've got, you've got Norris and Dennis, who've both hit double figures in previous seasons. Dave Davison as well, at some point, has hit double figures. Something just needs to click. I think perhaps tactics have played a part. I think we have been a defensive side. When you can't score, at least don't concede. There's been some games where tactically we've tried to push higher up the pitch, and then it's completely opened us up at the back, and then we've lost 3-0 on back-to-back. So I don't think we have the answer to scoring. I think that's the issue. Whether that's strikers being injured, I don't know. It just feels like we're waiting until January at the minute.
Can I ask your thoughts on Nigel Atkins? Because he's a very positive bloke. He kind of, good morning, we'll start again. And he seems to me, when things are going well, it's brilliant. You want to see his videos. He's a positive man. And his interviews are very quirky. I think he came out where at Carlisle and you went, we played a 1-4-2-3-1, something of the lines like that. And when you're winning games and you maybe winning them 1-0 or drawing 0-0, start of the year, you go, we're unbeaten here. I like the way we're playing. All of a sudden, when it switches and you're not winning and you're losing 3-0 away at Colchester and you go on that poor run that you've kind of gone on and, you have got a low expected goals. What are your thoughts on Nigel Atkins? Because for me, his style of football, you have to win a lot of games to be able to think this is okay football, I can watch this.
Yeah, I think always for us, he's a Tranmere fan. He's from the area. I always compare it to Keith Hill when he joined. Keith Hill's a Bolton fan. He was never going to get the support of the fan base. Nigel Atkins is exactly the opposite. I think he steadied the ship well last season. Obviously, Rob Apter played a part in that. This season, it's 50-50, really. I think, as you've said there, I said as soon as he signed, we are a fan base that's quick to expect. I think we do think we're a big club. I think, to us as well, we are. And we don't feel like League Two is our place. And so, yeah, we need a manager who believes in that too. The football that we've played, yeah, it's defensive. It's defensive. And I think, like you say, we were unbeaten in 4 games. I think we were one of 10 teams or something around that at the start of the season. And then 2 3-0 losses to Colchester. And I think it was Gillingham. And suddenly everything turns and we're in a relegation battle. So I think it is one of those managers where you're either going to be aiming for promotion or sort of surviving relegation.
Jack, if I had to bring you in on this, Tranmere are a club that you actually were very dismissive of their start because of how they played. And even when they were going well, you weren't quite convinced about could it be sustainable. And we both spoke about Shrewsbury last year. I think they kind of won 6 of the first 13, but they were all by the 1-goal scoreline. And the fans loved Matt Taylor at the start. And then when you start losing, it switches. What kind of would be your message to kind of Jack if you had to ask him from a fan's perspective?
I mean, you've obviously got the bright spark of Amari Patrick on the left, and he seems to be your sort of man to really get the ball to. And I think, we in January when it comes to the recruitment, I'm guessing from your point of view, it has to be in them forward areas, either if it's on out wide or through the centre, because I think what I noted down last time was that you've got 3 strikers, Jennings, Norris and someone else. I think he's Dennis, all over the age of 30. And you've got really robust strikers there that can't move. Jennings gave the ball away against Bradford, he slipped, and then Bradford scored. And then against Bromley, I was watching the highlights, it was through on goal, then he slips again. It's like his leg won't work. I'm not trying to be horrible to Jennings, but it seems like just having them sort of experienced strikers that can't move is like hurting you a bit. But then when you've got flair plays like Patrick, that they're really sort of like being the bright spot. So do you think the forward areas is a must in the January recruitment?
Yeah, and I think, like you say, we've got Jennings, Norris, Dennis, Davison as strikers, as main strikers. We need someone to go. We need a couple of players to maybe leave to open those spots up. But then also going back to sort of Nigel Atkins, it's about tactics. We've got, Amari Patrick is quick. He's a brilliant player and he's very technical and skillful. But over recent weeks, I can't speak highly enough of Harvey Saunders. He's very much a 50-50 player. He's definitely Marmite in a Tranmere fan base. But I think he does cause problems for defenders. He is absolutely rapid. Technically on the ball, not so great, but he offers that pace. And then we've got Sam Taylor coming back from injury as an 18-year-old, or 19-year-old, I think, who again has got pace and he showed real promise the past 2 games. And Sol Solomon, who's coming into the EFL in his first season. and just Nigel Adkins hasn't maybe used 2, maybe 3 of them as much as he probably needed to sort of balance it out, because it has been robust. It's been 3 or 4 strikers having game time that don't really offer solutions. So hopefully in January we get some more quick, maybe technical players in, and it starts to sort of come together naturally.
The last point I'd like to come to, and I'd like to start off with Josh, actually. You actually made another video on TikTok over it. Tranmere, ownership. It's a wild kind of period for football clubs, and you described that. What was your first thoughts when you first heard about the ownership? And maybe for people at home that haven't heard about it, maybe explain it a little bit, and it'd be good to get Jack's thoughts on it as well.
Well, my first thoughts was, why can't that be us shouting when our club's up for sale? But no, it was it took me by surprise when I saw it, to be honest with you. But I suppose that's the modern era we live in English football, where these American celebrities are really buying into the English footballing culture and seeing where they can take it.
What was your first thoughts, Jack? Because I think whenever there's ownership, there's a lot of excitement. Oh, we're going to have money pumped into us, but maybe a bit of a doubt in there. At the moment, you've got a stable football club that you can go and support. Maybe, there's an element of risks there, but a lot of potential there as well.
I think that's exactly it. I think that's what's worried me most, is that the Palioses will always keep us stable. They'll always keep us as a club. We'll always survive with them, but we might not compete. And I think at the moment, overall consensus of the fan base is that we want more than mediocrity. And obviously that comes with risks. At the moment, it's looking like Joe Tacopina, Donald Trump's old lawyer, Michael Jackson's old lawyer, stuff like that. He's taking charge. At the minute, there's an investment of, I think, £15 million for 80% stake. And then that's along with A$AP Rocky and potentially Rihanna involved in it too, which is insane. Only thing that feels the most sort of Tranmere way possible is that it all seems to be dependent on a trial going on at this very moment, as Tacopina is representing A$AP Rocky, who's allegedly shot a friend of his. So if he's convicted, then that's a potential max sentence of 24 years, and who knows what happens to the takeover as a first point. But if it happens, then if they do take over, it's what's happening with football. I think it can only be positive.
Absolutely, I can get your point there. Just quickly before I have to let you go, quick fire. Where do you think you'll finish this year? Do you think you can push on from this, or do you think maybe stabilise mid-table after a kind of a poor start last year and finishing well?
I'm always the positive one, so I'll go 7th. I think we can sneak into the playoffs somehow.
I like that. I like the confidence. Jack, thank you so much for joining us, and all the best for the rest of the season.
You too.
Thank you. Top man. There was Jack there. Great thoughts from Tranmere Rovers. Oh, I can hear an echo. I can hear myself. You don't want to hear that, boys. You don't want to hear that. Port Vale 3, Fleetwood 1. Port Vale go 9 unbeaten, Josh. How good are these Port Vale side? They've won 7 of which. 2-0 down at Accrington. They brought it back to 2-2 and a 1-1 draw to Colchester at home. This Vale side, after losing to Doncaster, picking up some momentum.
Yeah, I mean, last season the fans weren't on board with Darren Moore, were they? But they're definitely on board now. As you said there, I think it's 9 unbeaten in all competitions, 8 in the league. And I mean, the squad which they've assembled, it's a League Two super team at this point, and a lot of people expected them to do well this season. And when you got that sort of expectation, including the fact that they've been relegated, and it's not uncommon to see sides struggle since getting relegated, I think they're definitely exceeding expectations despite them being so high.
Jack, it was a poor poor day for Fleetwood. It felt very off from the minute I walked into the ground. It felt very flat, and they started really well. Their high line was really good. I thought Tom Sang was outstanding. He stepped up and put in 4 or 5 good deliveries. I thought Rico Richards on the far-hand side caused, many problems as well. Jaden Stockley was good in the air as well. He won more than he didn't. And very important that you've labelled as a focal point as well. The first goal is a misplaced pass from young Caden Hughes, who unfortunately received a lot of stick. He's 18 years old. He's come through the academy, and just 2 weeks ago, he scored 2 goals away at Walsall, for context as well. So for me, I think, be with us when we win, support the players when we win, but get behind him when we've not done so well as well. And look, he's made a couple of mistakes, but he's a young lad. We're at Fleetwood Town in League Two. There's going to be mistakes. The second we get back into the game, it's a great goal by Cole Johnston, who actually makes his 100th appearance for the football club tomorrow. Another proud moment for the football club, as does Brendan Weary. Just another 900 to go. Please skip. That'd be great. And then Port Vale, again, second half, high line, pinning Fleetwood back. I thought we're outstanding at the basics, the non-negotiables, as Martin Patterson would say. And it's Crozo with a great goal. I thought Harrington maybe should do a little bit better, be disappointed from his standards, but it's a great finish from a promotion winner. And the third goal is Ronan Curtis. How good are this Vale side? And maybe is it a wake-up call for Charlie Adam and Fleetwood, but 2 defeats in 10. It's not a bad start.
No, yeah, you can't grumble. And I think what we're suffering with is that, obviously, when we drew against Morecambe, Slew and Dakis came off the bench for Morecambe, got an assist, Hope scored off the bench. And against Port Vale, Curtis comes off the bench and Baker Boati assists. And it's like, we're kind of getting out fought when the teams are making subs. And I'm not trying to, say that we haven't got good depth, but there definitely are sides that have a lot of players that can change the game, and can't be too harsh because we are playing against top of the league, and Port Vale shown that they're that good that they didn't have to be on the A game against us. They didn't have to constantly create chances or be the best version of themselves that they can be to see the game out. And I mean, in the second half, we just need to be more clinical. Ronan Coughlin, you can't blame him too much because he's obviously hit the target. But if we score either of them 2 shots, we're 2-1 up. And then obviously Vale have to properly go for it then. And but we're in the lead and we get a second goal in it, and it could kill the match really. But yeah, like you said, it was a flat game, and Vale obviously have the firepower in Crowsdale and Garrity in the midfield. They started Chislett, who hasn't been really featuring. And then they have the midfield power like that. Stockley will batter and bruise you when he's against you. And obviously, at the first goal, it was a mistake from Caden Hughes. He's put into the starting lineup because Zach Medley's out for the season, Harrison Holgate's out for the season, and some key injuries there. We have to rely on an 18-year-old, and with this side, not just Caden Hughes, we're a young side, young manager. We'll make a lot of mistakes, and I think Vale will go on to win the league, to be honest. I know we're only, 12 games into the season now, but I do believe that this Vale side are getting a good run going. They're getting some good momentum, and we saw a Darren Moore side, Sheffield Wednesday, 22-23 season. They went 20 unbeaten, and obviously they didn't go through the automatics, but they still went up, and I think it's looking good for Vale.
It is, and it's a great comment by Alex there. He wouldn't suit the way that Fleetwood want to play with the high press now. It didn't really work the other day because how high you pinned us back, and we don't have a lot of pace in Graydon and Coughlin. They're not slow, but they're not rapid. And you look at what they've got a lot of different options. And I mean this with the upturn of respect to the players at our football club and at theirs. They're bringing on Ronan Curtis. They're bringing on Bineko. They're bringing on players of that nature, Hatford as well. And they've got Tolaj on the bench. We're bringing on Meepo, that's quite frankly had 20, 30 appearances in the Football League. And then you rely on players like Broom, who's a good player, but he's a defensive player. And their quality and is so much better than a lot of other clubs. So there's absolutely no shame. And it was a good crowd for them. I think they actually sold the most season tickets that they have done for a few years. I think I saw a tweet. I think they sold 4,500 season tickets. Great support at Vale. And they're a proper football club. And The Wonder of You, I always love. I think it's a great anthem for pre-match, and you're at the football. Talking of great football clubs, Josh, Mr. Cheltenham, you got a win the other day. Talk me through it. And it was against a decent-ish side. Colchester, I tipped to have a good season. Cheltenham's first away win on a Saturday since the 10th of February. We've already discussed that as well. Cheltenham's fourth victory of the season. Jordan Thomas, second goal, first and second goal of the football club. Did very well last year for Bath. He scored 10 in the National League South. Talk me through the game, because it was a good win, that. And I think Michael Flynn described it as the best win yet.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I didn't go to it because I've been very optimistic lately with our away performances. Started off poorly, and then against the run of play, Archer puts in a fantastic ball to Thomas at the back post, who puts it in. And then 25-30 minutes in, Lyle Taylor scores. And then it seems like, the story of our season, we go 1-0 up away from home, and then we can't keep hold of a lead. And then again, against the run of play, Jordan Thomas takes a shot from distance, and it gets a fortunate deflection and flies into the back of the net. And then again, as a Cheltenham fan, I wasn't too confident for the rest of the game, just from how our season's gone and our ability to hold on to leads. But I mean, looking at the second half stats, I think we had one shot and attempted 36 passes to Colchester's 150, and them having 12 to 15 second half shots. So in terms of performance, it was definitely a gritty one. It was a determined defensive display. And Joe Day, who came in for Owen Evans, definitely probably got a man of the match behind Jordan Thomas for me.
I label Colchester as a real underdogs this year, and they've disappointed me. But in terms of metrics, and look, you can only go off certain metrics, but ninth in terms of expected goals in the division. However, they've conceded the eighth most, so all of a sudden that kind of counteracts that. Shots on target, 5 in the whole game, and when you've got players in forward areas and even in midfield, Jack Payne, etc., they've got to start pulling off a few more victories in my eyes. Away from home, they've been poor. I think they are one of the only two sides to yet to win away from home. Salford are the other one. They're away at Chesterfield tomorrow. Good luck, lads, who I think are unbeaten at home during a lot of their games. Just quickly, Jack, how important is that win for Cheltenham for the season, getting up and running away from home? Because we lost 7 of the 12 games, and they quite frankly have looked disappointing in a lot of games.
Yeah, and even when they've won at home, they've only won it in like the last minute. It's not looked too convincing. I'm sure Josh will say that, but it's good to have Thomas scoring a brace, and obviously Ethan Archer is getting another goal contribution. He's been a massive live wire of Cheltenham this season. Who we thought Jude Boyd would be, but obviously he's injured now. But it's glad to see that these players who were playing in the National League a couple of years ago are stepping in. And I thought Cheltenham were really compact, and they covered Colchester's runners, and also they limited the space in between the lines. So they had a good defensive shape. And I think for Cheltenham, obviously, when they lose, it can get a bit messy, and it's understandable. But I think for Michael Flynn to keep the togetherness with the squad, and to just give the fans a little bit to feed off, and think that stick by us, and we will improve. And they're averaging a win every 3 games, I think, Cheltenham. So it's not looking too bad from what I expected, to be honest. And they are getting a couple wins, which obviously. I didn't expect them to beat Colchester, to be honest. But it's just about getting the wins at home like they have been doing. Accrington, Newport, Harrogate, must wins at home for them. And then just hopefully getting a few on the road like, Colchester.
Yeah, when I say underdogs, I meant from last season. And I said that at the start of the year before they signed the likes of Teddy Bishop. And I just felt that they should go on and kick on. I really did. And going from a bottom half team, signing all these players doesn't automatically make your promotion. So look at Burton. Burton went to go and sign 18 players. People going, we're going to get in the playoffs now. They haven't kicked on at all, and they're probably worse than they are last year. So it needs to take time to gel. And I watched a lot of Colchester under Danny Carlisle last year. I was in the Colchester end away at Mansfield, and I was impressed with what I saw. But away from home, you've got to improve. And in these key moments, they've just got to be better. Talk about key moments. We'll go to Bradford City now, and we have got Sam from SHD, who I was actually on his channel the other week as well. So go and subscribe to him. Bradford City now best home record in League Two, winning on 4 occasions, drawing the other 2. Sam, how are we? A great start. Very patchy, you described it as, but you're currently on a good patch. I think you'd have taken this start at the start of the season, wouldn't you?
Yeah, definitely. I think any time that Bradford are sat up in the playoffs, we can't complain too much. We kind of have a bit of a frustrated fan base at times with this obviously being our 6th straight season in League Two. But I think if it wasn't for injuries, we'd probably be sat a little bit more comfortable in the table as well, to be honest.
Yeah, absolutely. I can see that. Jack, if you had an observation on Bradford, they beat Newport, got a great result away at Tranmere and backed it up. 2 good goals the other day as well. Nice finishes. How important would you say their form at Valley Parade is going to be, Jack? Because last year, I think they only won 9 times at home. They've already won 4. I think they had the 14th best home record last year. Bradford City, 15, 16,000 most weeks as well. And that's just home fans. It's disgusting. Away from home, they were really good. When you've got players like Andy Cook that's scoring 20, 25 a season, it's vital for him. How important do you think is Valley Parade going to be this year if they want to go and do what they want to do under Graham Alexander that has won promotion at this level?
Yeah, it's going to be vital for them because obviously last season we saw that they could do it away, and they have got a good bunch in that side, to be honest. I think that when Valley Parade is rocking, they can easily get, I think, 3 or 4. Sometimes they've had to rely on Andy Cook, but then you've got Walker and also Adore behind him. Ben also at wing back. Then you've got arguably one of the best wing backs in Brad Halliday when he can start, and obviously you've got one of the best centre forwards in Andy Cook. So I think this side has got a lot in them to finish. Obviously in the top 7, even if they wanted to be ambitious, they've got promotion winners in that squad. I think it's just sometimes just trying to get goals from different areas of the pitch, and because obviously when you get a service to Andy Cook, you know that he's going to score. I think this season probably, I reckon he's going to score more than 20.
Yeah, he's a pretty bank. I think only Haaland scored more goals than him in football in league games. Josh, what would you say is the difference in Bradford City from an outside? It'd be interesting to get Sam's thought on it just after as well, because Cook has obviously been there. They brought a lot of experience in some ways, Graham Alexander always does. But from your point of view, they started well, beat MK Dons and went a bit off the boil away from home, but back on it now. 3 wins in 4 and a draw in there.
Yeah, I think it's just about that home form, which is absolutely massive. Obviously, Valley Parade is arguably the biggest stadium in the league, and Bradford definitely have one of the best sets of home fans in the league. So it's all about keeping that momentum going, keep pushing at home, and if they can keep the wins ticking, whatever they can do on road is a bonus to get them up there.
Sam, what about yourself? What has changed around Valley Parade? Because you recently went on a podcast and said a lot didn't renew the season ticket because of what it was like, because of the atmosphere was quite toxic. And it almost feels as an away fan, if you go away at Bradford and you get through the first 20, 25 minutes, Bradford aren't maybe playing, good passes, playing through the lines, playing forwards, running forwards, and the opposition stop you, maybe get a goal up. There's a lot of boos. There's a lot of on your backs. But this year, it feels a lot more positive inside Valley Parade. And that kind of metric from the off the pitch is kind of coming on to it a little bit as well.
Yeah, I think Graham Alexander's certainly played a big part in that. He seems to understand the fan base, and we've had a number of different managers who haven't. Mark Hughes, you'd think, would know better than anybody about the expectations and stuff, but then with his tippy-tappy football, it was just not what the fans wanted to see. Derek Adams never really got on with the fans, but I think because Alexander's always very honest and he always says it how it is, I think the fans are a little bit more patient with him. And under previous managers, and even a little bit last season, to be honest, if we go 1-0 down at home, we'd never get back into the game. But we saw it at the weekend. We went 1-0 down and we thought, here we go again. But we showed that character to then get back into the game. And I wouldn't really say a lot has changed. It's just the players seem to have a better mentality. It's all well and good saying the supporters can do this and they can do that. But if the players aren't mentally strong enough to deal with the crowd, because they all talk about how amazing that our fan base is, but a lot of them then can't deal with it. But this season, while on paper, it doesn't look like we spent loads of money in the summer, we've got a lot of players in who seem to now be able to deal with that expectation. I think the biggest thing is the loans that we're signing. In previous years, we've signed a lot of players who it's their first loan in the AFL, and they're coming to Bradford City, and that's a lot of expectation for a player to deal with his first loan. But pretty much all of our signings have had previous EFL experience, and they're the ones that are thriving at the moment.
If I was to ask you one question before I let the other lads ask a question as well, how would you describe Graham Alexander's play style? And when he was at Fleetwood, it always felt like Graham Alexander's season was in three parts. When the pitches are nice, he's really good. He plays good football, don't get me wrong. He can be a bit direct and get cross into the box. But I think Phil Parkinson did that at Bradford, and Bradford fans can get behind because they're getting the ball forward quickly. November, December time, maybe starts to get a little bit scrappy as the pitches get heavier, maybe go on a bit of a bad run. He adapts his play styles, gets a bit more more direct, more kind of ball forward quickly instead of playing the tiki-taka football, and results slightly turn. How would you describe it? Because he has evolved in the last kind of 8-10 years since leaving Fleetwood.
I think it's probably the best out of our last couple of managers. He seems to get a very, very good balance. I wouldn't say there's a very specific style for it. It's very adaptable. We can press, we can go direct, we can play out from the back, we can do it all. And I think we get a really, really good balance with it, because when you're doing the same thing over and over and then it suddenly stops working, like when under Mark Hughes we were playing the possession base and we weren't winning football matches, or with Derek Adams where we're just booting it every time we got the ball, and then it suddenly stops working, then the manager can be seen as stubborn. But because Alexander's very adaptable, we'll play the same formation. If we've got three centre-halves available, we'll play the back three. But in terms of the style of play, we're so interchangeable, and because we've got different types of players, I think we're able to do that pretty fluidly, to be honest.
Brilliant. Jack, if you had to ask Sam one thing on Bradford City, we do play them, I think, a couple of weeks, actually, which should be a great game. What would that be?
Do you think you can be automatic promotion challengers this season? I know it's an open league, and I think 7 sides in this league will probably fancy themselves to finish in that top 3. Do you think Bradford could be one of them?
It all depends on Andy Cook, really. You know, he's been very available and injury-free throughout his time at Bradford City, but if he gets any type of injury, while this season we're starting to see more players chip in with goals, if you lose a 25-goal season strike, you know, it's going to hinder any side. So it all really depends on him. But I think because Alexander's going to have more backing from the fans this year, if we do go on a bad run, because we can be streaky under Alexander, then they're going to stick with him a little bit more. Whereas in years gone by under so many different managers, as soon as we go on a slight bad run, the fans then call for the manager's head, and pretty much nobody will change their manager mid-season and then go on to be promoted. So I think they're the 2 main points, but we have to keep Andy Cook fit.
Josh, if you were to ask Sam one thing about Bradford, what would you be thinking from an outsider? Cheltenham obviously have totally different expectations, and Fleetwood a kind of battle against the odds, where Bradford are every game you've got to win. It's so different, isn't it?
Yeah, well, I was just going to touch on that Andy Cook point and basically just ask, do you think that January it's really important that you go in and get another striker who can either play alongside him, or if, God forbid, Andy Cook gets injured, so he can come in and do the same sort of job?
Well, that's what we tried to do in the summer, but nobody wanted Viden Oliver. So then you can't have 6-7 strikers where you're going to play Andy Cook, and then it's kind of his partner. We expected Callum Kavanagh to kind of kick on this season. He had a good second half of last season when he came in from Middlesbrough, but this season he started really poorly. Ollie Sanderson came in from Fulham on loan and scored a couple of goals, but then subbed off at half-time against Harrogate a couple of weeks ago and hasn't been seen since. There's rumours he's had a bit of a falling out with some of the coaches and stuff. Tyler Smith really struggled in the league, but scored a lot of goals in the AFL Trophy. And obviously, like I mentioned, Viden Oliver, he's been here now for over 2 years and he's scored 5 goals maximum. And he's on probably 3-4 grand a week. So obviously, it'd be nice to get another striker in, but I can't see us doing so unless we get some of them higher earners off the wage bill.
Sam, we've grown up on the internet together. How would you go and describe your channel if people want to go and watch from home as well?
Well, it's focused largely on Bradford City, but I try and do a lot of League 2 content. We do the League 2 score predictions in there, and I'm trying to kind of broaden it out to even more general football content, but the specifics is certainly Bradford City in League 2.
Sam, thank you so much for joining us, and go and subscribe to him. Sam, all the best for the season. Tough game tomorrow as well.
Yeah, looking forward to that one.
Thanks, mate. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Cheers.
Brilliant from Sam there. As always, we're going to move on now to Notts County 1, AFC Wimbledon 0. Not a classic. AFC Notts County, after a couple of defeats to Gillingham and Vale at home, bounced back with a 1-0 win. One thing I really like about this Notts County side, Josh, is how good defensively they are. They added Bedeau in the summer as well. 100 appearances at Morecambe, loan/permanent. Matty Platt, 89 appearances at Bradford. Sam, obviously we spoke highly of him. And Lewis McCarry, yes, he did make a mistake that nearly allowed Kelly to score for Wimbledon. the ex-Stoke and Dundalk man as well. Wimbledon have now lost the last 2 away matches and only won 1 in 5, only scoring 3 of which. Notts County, great result. They're still scoring goals. In terms of expected goals, they're still one of the highest. In terms of goals scored, they're still one of the highest. But defensively, from conceding loads of goals, they're good defensively now, aren't they?
Absolutely. Conceded, I think it was 86 last season, and it's only 11 so far this season. So definitely much better at the back. But I mean, that's kind of expected when they went in early in the transfer window and brought in 4 or 5 defenders playing wing back and centre half, and then bringing in Alex Bass as well, who was phenomenal last season for Wimbledon. And then, in terms of the actual game, I don't think there was too much quality in there. I feel like Wimbledon are a very well organised side this season, from seeing them play against us. And I feel like they have been a little bit unfortunate recently. Obviously, Joe Lewis is out at the moment, which is a massive, massive loss. And if you see the goal which they conceded, Wimbledon will be really, really disappointing because they've allowed the ball to drop from a corner. And then obviously it's gone in from Matty Platt, but nobody's really picked up David McGoldrick, who's potentially helped it in. So I think it's definitely an avoidable goal. But for Wimbledon, I don't think it's all doom and gloom. So I think they have been very good this season.
What do you think is the difference, Jack, on the road? Because they've won all the home games so far. They've actually won the last 6 EFL League 2 home games, but only 1 win in 5. It's disappointing, and they're just struggling. And we see a lot of sides, especially Championship, even below Plymouth in the Championship, are showing that really good at home, not maybe as great. Oxford as well. What do you think the big difference is at home compared to away? Yes, I know it's your fortress. Going away to Notts County is a tough place to go, but they didn't really stamp their authority on the game.
No, when they played Salford, they were just coming back from not playing for a couple of weeks, bar the cup tie against Newcastle. But sort of that'll be a bit of a off the ball training drill really for Wimbledon, playing against a Premier League opposition. Against Salford, they didn't have much to shout about. Bradford, it was 0-0. There wasn't much in that game either, from what I can remember. Bromley, they played them when Bromley were getting a bit of form, and it was sort of a physical battle, which just Bromley outfought Wimbledon, and not many sides will do that in this division. And then Notts County, well, Johnny Jackson said that they weren't clinical enough. They had 16 shots, 8 on target. You're hoping when you go to Meadow Lane, you need to get that goal, and most of them came in the second half. And if you do score, maybe in the 60th minute, before obviously Notts County scored, then Wimbledon have a good shot of winning the game. And I don't think it's anything to do with the structure, because Wimbledon were playing really well, I thought. They had 3 players between the line when Bugle came deep, and then Hippolyte and Maycock were both there. Then they have 2 wing-backs, Tilly and Newfield, both really good offensively. So it is a bit of a tough one with Wimbledon, with why they are so bad on the road, but and also why they're not being so clinical. And you thought they would have done with Matty Stevens coming off a hat-trick against Carlisle.
Yeah, great points. Talking about being good at home, Swindon Town are the exact opposite of that. Only 1 win in 6, drawing 1, losing the other 4. Newport County was at 4-0 win. Josh Joe Ironside scored his first goal of the season. It's taken him 12 games to do it. He last scored Gillingham on the last day of last season. First goal from the penalty spot to win Doncaster 3 points. How important is that for him to get up and running? Because he scored 20 goals last year.
Yeah, absolutely, it's important. But you've got to remember that it's not only him leading the line anymore. Obviously, they brought in Billy Sharp, who's got bags and bags of experience playing in the EFL. But no, really, really good for Joe Ironside. Potentially, you could say it was quite controversial in the circumstances the penalty was given, but no, we'll take it all day.
Swindon have only won 2 of the first 12, and you described Mark Kennedy's style as not a great watch early this season, Jack. It is a style that Lincoln fans saw as frustrating. They were a good side that year, and kind of they got good results against sides and maybe not, and were good at times. They've only beaten Cheltenham and Newport this year as well. You're just a charity, Josh, aren't you? That every time we go, they've only beaten Wimbledon, only away win. Oh, it's a win, it's a Cheltenham. There's always, behind every stat, there's always Cheltenham Town, isn't there? I'm finding that a lot this year. Swindon got the second fewest shots on target in the division, which is a worry. Do you think the Swindon side are at risk this year for relegation, because they are a massive football club at this level?
Yeah, and Mark Kennedy, obviously, like you just touched on, he didn't play the prettiest football at Lincoln, and now he's trying to play more football at Swindon. And I think some of the comments where I'm a bit baffled about, like Freckleton, he said in his pre-match interview against I think Salford they have tomorrow, that that he said that he's got 3 young boys, and if he had a daughter, he'd want someone like Freckleton to come home with her. But yet Freckleton gave the ball away for Billy Sharp to, I think, have a chance. And then he gave that handball in the 94th minute, which Ironside scored. And then also against Port Vale, who were trying to play out from the back and made a mistake there. So seems like the players that maybe have a good personality, Kennedy's just sticking up for them and not really valuing them with the footballing ability, and he's got some of the wrong profiles in that side that can't pursue his style, and he's sticking up for him. I think Swindon fans are getting a bit tired about that, and it's good that Smith came off from the bench, because I think he was coming back from his suspension or injury, and when you have him Butterworth partner him, and you've got Glatzel who's not really kicked on this season, Kabongo Shamanga, who hardly has any touches in the game, you're really not going to score any goals. And I expected a lot more from this Swindon side. And if they get beat tomorrow, which I think, they have Salford tomorrow, I think Kennedy could be going. And they're also getting sick of their owners.
Yeah, you look at the ownership problems as well, and I'm a big believer in a triangle. Ownership problems at the top leads to discommunication with the manager and then the management onto the pitch. Fleetwood triangle last year was horrific, and it got that football club relegated. Swindon Town are very much the same. When they're a big football club, they won't. Maybe Fleetwood can maybe tolerate it a little bit, where Swindon fans it can get very toxic inside the county ground. Look, they played Doncaster, who have now won 7 of the first 12. Or if you go back to last year, won 17 of their last 23 games available. Taking 54 points from a possible 69 as well, only losing 3 times, and they were all this season. Swindon horrific in a lot of areas this year, but it's Doncaster at home. I think that Barrow game sums it up. That I think that's where it started, and he came out really pleased. And his aim is just to dominate possession. And for me, I don't know about you boys, I think he thinks that if you have a lot of possession, it dominates games. They're not having a lot of possession in right areas, and for me, that worries me. One thing that I often spoke about on this show was Accrington Stanley earlier this season. They went away at Newport and dominated the game. I think they had 8 shots on target and got beat quite heavily. And in a lot of games, in terms of possession, attack, expected goals, shots on target, they're inside the top 12 or 14 or 16. They were performing well. That's now 3 wins on the bounce, Josh, and that's the best run since October 2023. And that is as many wins as their previous 23 matches before this 3, where they actually drew 6, lost 14. A massive upturn for John Doolan's men.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not entirely sure how they've actually done it, because they played us before going on their 3-game win streak, and to put it quite bluntly, they looked awful, and we didn't look great that day. So that says how bad they looked. But no, I mean, I feel like John Doolan had to pull something out of the bag, because I saw after the Cheltenham game that a lot of fans were really frustrated with him, frustrated with his tactics, his substitutions, and a lot of them were calling for his head. But obviously 3 wins on the bounce. I think they're up to 19th now. I think they're a couple of points outside the relegation zone. I mean, that's what it is for Accrington this season. They've made a lot of signings from below EFL players, which are unproven at the level. Obviously, last season we've spoken about the likes. They had Brad Hills on loan. Obviously, had McConville, had Lee, had Pritchard. They lost a lot of good players there, and that's not easy to replace. And I don't think they have replaced them. But obviously, at the moment they are performing, and if they can keep that up, they'll be delighted.
Jack, talk to me about Barrow, because at the start of the year, their metrics under new management, they weren't great, but they were outperforming their expected goals, the shots on target. They were winning a lot of games tightly, especially at Holker Street as well. They've now lost 4 of the 6 away games, lost 4 of the last 5 matches, actually. 3 of which have been 1-0, and a couple to 2-0, a couple by 1 goal and a couple by the odd goal as well. Before this, they won 5 of the first 11, 5 of the first 7. Sorry, what would you say has changed in that time?
Well, Conor Mahoney went out injured in game week 3, and I think Barrow haven't got many world beaters. They've got a lot of 6 out of 10s that, to be fair to them, perform consistently. But then when you're trailing a game, you want someone who you can guarantee something from. And I think in that bunch, you don't. And I was really pleased with what I saw from Barrow. They were well drilled out of possession. They were also creating chances, but now when sort of Jake Garner isn't sort of creating and also Keane Spence behind him, it seems like Barrow aren't really connecting well. But to be fair, they have just played an inform Accrington side, and they had a penalty shout, which I think should have been given as a penalty. That was quite early on in the game, so if they put that away, then they would have got momentum. And they dominated the ball. They had a lot of chances, and I think from their point of view, they were a bit unlucky not to get a point out of the game. But they have Notts County at home next, and if they lose that, then they're going to get on a really, really bad form, because that would mean if they lost that, they'd lose 5 out of the last 6, which for Barrow, with the way they started, it won't be great for them.
I tell you what, you produced a brilliant article telling me how Port Vale are going to play. You know, everything they do on and off the ball for 90 minutes. And that's the best thing that you've ever said, that they've lost 4 of the last 5, Jack. But if they lose the next game, that would mean they've lost 5 of the last 6.
And do you know who they beat? Do you know who they beat in that, in that 6-game run? Cheltenham.
That just sums up the show. Cheltenham are in it. And Jack, thank you so much for that insightful information. But Jack, brilliant. Coming back to you, Josh, here. Carlisle 1, Harrogate 1. Another good point for Harrogate, actually. They've now won 2, drawn 2, only lost 1 in the last 5 matches. And that defeat came to MK Dons at home. No winning 5 for Carlisle since that win against Swindon as well. Mike Williamson, only 1 win in 6 matches. If you want to go back to his record this season, it's 3 wins, 2 draws, 7 defeats. 11 points in 12 games. What have you thought on Carlisle? What did you think of the appointment at first? Because it seemed very much a long-term appointment with a not great suited squad to what he wants to do.
Yeah, no, I was one of the first to come out and say that I did not understand the appointment whatsoever. I mean, Williamson, he's somebody who I find him really difficult to speak about, because obviously his football is meant to be attractive, it's meant to look nice, and it's better suited to maybe Championship and top League One sides. And I feel like in League Two, it's hard to play that sort of style, because you're going to get counter pressed, and teams are going to capitalize on your mistakes. Now with MK Dons, he had players who can play that style of football, and he still couldn't achieve success with them. Going to Carlisle, they do not have the players to play that sort of football. And I saw on Saturday that they had 70% possession, but again, they're struggling to win games. Albeit they did have 20, I think they had 22 shots and a 2.3 XG. So you could say they're unfortunate in that game. But obviously, like you said, I think he's only won 1 in his first 6 games, and that was against Swindon. So for me, I couldn't quite put my finger on the appointment. I don't think it really made a lot of sense, but he's got a lot of time to prove his worth, I suppose, after how long they kept with Simpson.
What do you think of Harrogate at the weekend, Jack? Because they have got a poor defeat in them, but they've played well against some biggish sides. Carlisle are still a good side at this level. Yes, they have been struggling this year. Beat Doncaster, beat Bradford, went away at Colchester and beat Newport last weekend as well. Talk to me a bit on them, because they can go and get points regularly to keep them in this division.
Yeah, they're a side that a typical smaller club in League Two. They'll stay in a low block, and Simon Weaver will get him really hard to break down. And sometimes when they do go a bit higher up the pitch, they can get exploited, because the sort of the midfield and the defence can get outrun, because they're not going to be a fast side. They will be fast side up front with the forward players like both Dailies that they have. Muldoon, for I think he's 35 for his age. He isn't that slow, and they haven't got George Thompson back yet, who got, I think, 16 goals last season. So I think for the start that they've had in mid-table, for people saying that Harrogate will go down, I think it's been a great start for them, especially when they've not had the best player available, and they also lost Abraham Odo last in the summer who got 13 goal contributions, and it's just about that defensive resilience. And they'll have Port Vale tomorrow at home, and the frustrated Doncaster, they couldn't break them down. Bradford, they got 3 points, and I know that Port Vale are top of the league, but if Harrogate do sit in that solid 4-4-2 shape, I could see him even getting a point.
Yeah, absolutely. So, great question from Scott here. What do you think about Carlisle? I think they'll finish anywhere between 15th and 18th.
Yeah, I think I don't think they'll be anywhere near the drop come the end of the season. I think their squad and Williamson is too good for them to go down.
Yeah.
15th, I reckon.
Yeah, I could see that. Last game, scintillating game this at Gresty Road. Crewe 1 defeating 9 now, winning 5, drawing 3. Unbeaten in the last 3, drawn the last 2, 1-1, drew against Doncaster away from home. 1 winning 4, though, against Gillingham. Only a 0.5 unexpected goals against Salford at the weekend. Ryan Cooney's strike, good enough for a point. Great player, Ryan Cooney. Has not had enough goals for his game. Really liked him at Morecambe when he got promoted from League 2. Salford, second lowest goals in the division, second lowest expected goals in the division. Tranmere are the only team worse than them on both metrics. 1 winning 6 for the Ammies, and the one of 2 sides yet to win away, Colchester, the other one that we've mentioned. Josh, we spoke about how much they've regressed in previous years. What have you made of their start?
I've been really disappointed with them, Nappers, to be honest with you. I made a video just prior to the season starting saying that I actually expected a big campaign from Salford. I know I said they've regressed massively over the last few years, but I feel like their side this season coming into the campaign was quite strong. I feel like they recruited quite well, bringing in the likes of Cole Stockton and Ben Woodburn, Tyrese Forner, but for one reason or another, it's not quite clicking at the moment. And I mean, they got a good manager in Robinson for League 2, but yeah, something isn't quite working there at the moment.
And Sam, Crewe picked up the form after a disappointing kind of start. Lots of injuries at the moment. They come to Fleetwood tomorrow. What are we expecting from Crewe, and what have you made of their kind of recent 9 games? A lot of injuries. You've got Omar Bogle back at the weekend as well. Jack Lancaster out as well. It's been a mixed bag of results, but a good start. They're taking it at the start of the year, I think.
Yeah, definitely. I think the fans will be really impressed with the response from the first 3 games, because we had obviously Tyler on not last week, the week before, and he was really saying about the togetherness with Crewe, and they've had Lancaster and Tracy up front, 2 not natural number 9s, and they've still made it work. And Lee Bell's sides are tough to break down. They've got a young squad, but they've got experience. Connor Thomas came off the bench, and like you said, Bogle's coming back from injury. They have Kane Hemmings currently out, but he's another leader, and also Dimitriou. He's probably the best leader in the league, and Crewe, sometimes they want to play it quick from out the back, but also they'll be able to go direct into Tracy, who can run the channels, and they also had Conway, who is normally a left wing back, but then they've changed him to a midfield, so they've also got flexibility in the squad there. They've got 2 young outside centre halves playing next to Dimitriou. Sanders in the midfield is a good ball player, so I don't think Crewe are going to be one of them sides who'll go, just lump it up the pitch. They'll want to play football like Fleetwood will, and I think that can probably be a draw with 2 sides who want to play football but can go direct, cancelling each other out.
Yeah, I agree with that. Now we're getting towards the latter parts of the show, probably 5 minutes. If you've got any questions, get them in. Josh, obviously, we've not spoke on here for a couple of weeks, and we did kind of meet up, 3 or 4 weeks ago. If you had to ask, what side have you been most impressed with this year and least impressed with?
Side I'm most been impressed with, probably Walsall and Wimbledon. From what I've seen of Wimbledon, I've been really impressed with. I know they haven't been great recently, but I think with the squad which they've got and what they did last season, I've been really impressed, and just the way which they play. And then obviously Walsall speaks for itself there. They're sat 3rd in the league. I think I spoke to you before the season started, Nappers, and I said they'll just stay up because they don't have enough firepower in their team. So how wrong was I there? I think they've scored 23 goals. And then in terms of disappointments, I mean, Colchester, I think I backed them to finish top 6, top 7 at the start of the season. And I mean, they got the Cowley brothers, who notoriously have done quite well in their previous jobs and a lot of high profile jobs, and they've assembled a team which has a lot of League One experience in there. So I think they've definitely been one of the most disappointing sides.
Jack, a team that you may be surprised with, maybe done slightly poorer than expected, and maybe one that has pushed on.
Walsall definitely pushed on. Had them in, I think, my bottom 8 come the start of the season, and obviously they did have Jamil Matt leading the line, and I mean, he's getting goals, but he's got a partnership now that can actually get him goals. And I think the underperformer, obviously, you said Colchester, but I didn't expect Carlisle to be 23rd. But obviously, it's understandable with the way that obviously they sat Simpson 4 games in, and they've gone for a brand new style of play so quickly, which I thought, if you're going to do that, do it at the start of the season where you can get the right recruitment and help the manager, because let's be honest, Williamson, obviously he knows what he's going into, but he hasn't been helped with the squad he's been dealt with. I know they've got good individual players there, but for a possession-based style, it's just not up to standard.
Any sides you're worried about, Josh? For me, Bromley strike out. They've not won in 9, and Crawley also won their first 2 games of the season. And you see it, teams coming up, they start well. We didn't really speak about Bromley going back to Tranmere. What have you made of their start? Because they look very disciplined, very hard working, battling a hard team to play against, but not really been getting the look under Andy Woodman in previous weeks.
Yeah, I think Bromley were a side who we was expecting to kind of, if they were going to stay up, it was going to be a lot to do with their home form, and they've been quite disappointing at home this season. I think they've only won once at home potentially. So yeah, that's definitely been disappointing for them. And then obviously
Cheltenham.
Yeah, and then yeah, probably Cheltenham has been disappointing, and probably Morecambe as well. But Morecambe was expected. But I'm really starting to fear for Morecambe. I know they're only 1 point behind Carlisle, but they're 3 behind Bromley. Bromley's got a game in hand, and it's going to be a long way back for Derek Adams and the boys.
Great question from Will here. Where do Fleetwood need to strengthen in January? Where do Cheltenham need to improve? From my point of view, Jack, on Fleetwood, I would say 2 positions. If I could sign 2, it'd be a left side centre half with some experience. And I've said to Jack in the summer, I went, we've got 6 centre halves, and at the time there was Zep Medley, Brendan Wirradoo, James Bolton, Harrison Holgate, Finley Potter, and Caden Hughes was the other one as well. And I looked at, for me, my starting lineup would be Zep Medley, Brendan Wirradoo, James Bolton as a 3 there. James Bolton's out injured, Zep Medley's out injured. Then the 4th one would come in would be Holgate for Bolton. He's now out injured. Caden Hughes has come in, and Potter's been nowhere near the team, really. So unless I sent him off, I'm surprised you've not touched up the free agent market in there. We signed Shaw, as a backup to Elliot Bonds, which I was surprised about, but maybe sort of a good pickup. And then another striker. I felt Fleetwood panicked, if I'm honest with you. They wanted numerous targets, and they said, we want to get our man. I thought Meepo was a late panic man, just to boost to the squad for numbers. I think Lonergan is a decent player in there, but I think it's too early for him. I think Harrogate, there's a good player in there. I just don't see him getting in over Graydon or Coughlin. I don't see him having the desire of those 2 at the moment. I feel another centre forward. Would you disagree with that, or would you maybe add somewhere maybe else?
I'd probably disagree with that, just because obviously even if we did loan out Lonergan, then we've still got Meepo there, who's guaranteed to be promised game time. Obviously, we don't want him to be the backup centre forward, and realistically, obviously Coughlin's not had the best injury record, but and he's already had a bit of a threat. But then we have Harrogate there, who's ready to go, and we have a good backup in Harrogate, but also we can also start Mark Helm there if we have to up top, who can drop deep. So we have got options there, and it would be the free agent market really, which doesn't have to be in January. The free agent market is centre half. We definitely need.
Yeah, all 3 of our centre half start the other day had no centre half on the bench. What about you at Cheltenham, Josh? Any improvements need to be made to your glittering European Super Cup champion squad?
Mate, I'd scrap the old team and bring in a brand new 11. No, in all seriousness, definitely defensive reinforcements. I mean, we look god awful at the back. We conceded 20. Back three of Stubbs, Bennett, Bradbury. There's probably about 20 pace combined between the three of them. So we definitely need some legs at centre half. And then Ryan Haynes is out until February time. But if I was to bring in a reinforcement, I don't think Shipley's good enough to play left wing back in a back five. So I'll probably go for a left wing back as well.
Guys, 75 minutes of League Two action. Thank you so much for joining me. Josh, welcome back. Thanks for coming on.
Mate, I'm buzzing to be back. Buzzing to be here.
Absolutely, mate. And Jack, thanks for coming on, mate. As usual, you were brilliant.
Cheers, thank you, and it's good to be with the three of us for the first time.
Yeah, I thought, well, to cover, you just spoke about Cheltenham's pace, to cover up for kind of Kershaw's, defensive, problems. We've got to add.
Here we go. We go.
We've got to have a sandwich where say something nice, something horrible, and I go, thank you so much for joining me. So you've had a sandwich there. Guys, thank you so much for joining me. Thank you so much for watching. If you haven't already, get liking, get subscribing, and go and follow both of these guys on their social media pages. If you want to go and give it a quick plug, Jack, start with you.
JK Analysis 7 on Twitter, trying to get to 4,500 followers. So if you could follow me, it'd be appreciated.
So I still can't get over you were born in 2007. That is an absolute minefield to me. I was kind of on pints of Strombo Dart fruit back in those days. Josh, where can people go and find you? The growing TikTok.
Yeah, TikTok is Josh Talks Here Foul, and it's the same on Twitter, but I'm not as active on there. So maybe don't follow that one. Stick to TikTok.
Absolutely. Go and follow them. Guys, thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe on your way out. Until next time, I'll see you later. Crewe at home tomorrow night. Good luck tomorrow, chaps. Thanks for watching.